The key to growing your Pinterest account is through creating savable content. Over the past year, I have grown my Pinterest traffic by over 378%, and I started growing when I understood the power of the save on Pinterest. I'm Emily Bales. I'm a Pinterest marketing and ads strategist. Over the past 4 years, I've helped my clients and my students increase their traffic and turn it into profit through the power of Pinterest marketing. So I didn't always understand the power of the save. So by the end of today's episode, I want you to understand the power of the save so you can take a fast track to your Pinterest marketing success. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the most important metrics on Pinterest and what you're really gonna wanna track. So when I am creating a monthly report for a client or I'm checking my own stats, some of the most important metrics I'm checking are my saves. Those are the people who are taking my pin and they are saving it or pinning it to one of their boards. I track outbound clicks, so those are the people actually leaving Pinterest and going to wherever I'm directing my pin. Sometimes that's to one of my products, a landing page, a lead magnet, my blog, my YouTube channel. So I pay attention to that metric. I pay attention to and track my followers. I make sure that that is continuing to grow, and I also look at my impressions. So those are some of the most important metrics. And I believe that most people get a little carried away with our outbound clicks because that is the whole point of Pinterest. We want to drive traffic from Pinterest to our site, because when we are getting more visibility, we're getting more people on our website, then we are able to get people into our world, into our funnels, so we can ultimately nurture them and turn them into a paying customer, and the loyal one at that. But I think that we pay so much attention to actually getting people to leave Pinterest to go to our website that we don't pay as much attention to a metric that is really important. And Pinterest has actually come out and said this is the most important metric in their eyes, and that is the save. So like I mentioned, that is when somebody sees your pin and they decide that it is valuable content or they want to come back to that idea for later. And so they actually save that pin to one of their boards. So that sends signals when somebody saves your pin to the Pinterest algorithm that that is a valuable piece of content. And then it can also create this snowball effect, because when somebody saves your pin, in result, all of their followers can see that pin in their feed as well. So it can start to get this wider and wider reach. Not to mention, when a lot of people are saving your pin, it sends signals once again to that Pinterest algorithm that that is a really quality piece of content, and it's providing a lot of valuable information to pinners. So Pinterest decides, hey, we should distribute this pin on an even wider spectrum. So you can see once again that it starts creating that snowball effect. So now you might be wondering, okay, Emily, I get it. I need to be focusing on creating content that people are saving, but how do I do that? So today I am going to give you 5 different tips for creating pins that get saved. So the first way that you are going to create savable content is just go back to your analytics and pay attention to your pins that have already gotten traction. So I just want you to go to your reporting, look at that overview. You can actually filter by the specific metric that you want to look at. So you can actually filter by saves, and then you can see which pins of yours are getting the most saves. Now, if you have pinned pins from other creators, then you actually might see somebody else's pin getting the most saves for you. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but if you have saved somebody else's pin, that could be your pin that's actually getting the most traction. You never know. Now, I always teach that if you have very much content and you're really building up a base on Pinterest, there's not really a reason to be saving other creators' pins. But let's say in the past that you have, and when you go to check on those metrics, you see somebody else's pin getting the most saves, you can do a couple of different things. First, you can just see what that creator did and try to take note of maybe what worked well on that pin and get inspired through it and maybe put your own twist on it. Or two, you can filter by just your pins and make sure that you are looking at your pins and which ones of yours are getting the most saves. And then based off of this information, you can simply just do more of what's working for you. Like I said, as simple as that. So whether that be paying attention to the text overlay, the font, the image, or maybe it's video content, I've noticed with my own account that it's always hands down my short form video content that gets the most saves. And I think it's because for me, I'm able to provide so much value in that short form video. People are saying, ooh, this is so good, I need to save this for later. So tip number one, just do more of what's working. And then for tip number two, what we are going to do, we are actually going to do a little bit of keyword research. So I want you right on the platform to do some market research. Search some of your pillar keywords or long tail keywords that you want to be ranking for. And I want you to pay attention to the pins that you're seeing surface at the top of your searches, because those are the top ranking pins for that specific search. So for me, I might go to the search bar and type in Pinterest marketing. Whatever comes up first, those are the top ranking pins. And I'm gonna pay attention to what those creators did on their pins and what can I do to get inspired by that and maybe put my own twist on it. Now, obviously I never recommend copying, but I do think it's important to pay attention to what they're doing. Are they just using text overlay? Are they using specific images? I had worked with one client who was in the parenting niche, and when I was doing keyword research, I noticed that almost all of the top ranking pins either had bottles or a picture of a baby in their pins. So you can get inspired, like I mentioned, through other people's content and see what can I lean into and see if this helps get my pins more tractions and more saves. Because once again, we want to create save-worthy content because this is ultimately going to help us grow on Pinterest. So let's go ahead then and dive into tip number three. This tip is so easy. Just tell people to save your pin. I know, nothing too crazy. I started doing this last year, and I know I've already mentioned that I noticed a lot of my video pins were getting a lot of saves. And I think that there is a couple of things that I could attribute this to or factor into why they're getting a lot of saves. And I think the first thing that caused this success was because, like I mentioned, I was providing a lot of value, education, inspiration, and it made people feel like, I want to save this and come back to this later. This was really valuable. And then the second part, which is super easy to do, just tell people to save your pin. Add that call to action, save this pin for later. So in my videos, at the very beginning, I would put an alert on the pin where I would make sure that that text overlay really caught their attention. It would say, save this idea for later, save this tutorial for later. So I actually told the person to save that pin. So for step number three, as simple as that, on your pins, just test and try, telling people exactly what you want them to do, and that's just saving your pin. So now let's move on to step number four, or tip number four, for getting more saves on your pins. You can try testing infographics. So when I say an infographic, what I mean is essentially you have a pin where you are giving the person all of the information that they need right there on that pin design. Now, I've noticed with people that these pins might get a lot of saves, but they don't get as much outbound traffic. So for that reason, some people feel like maybe this isn't serving me as well as I wanted to, because I actually want people to go to my website. I don't want them to just save the pin. But I argue for creating these pins because what I noticed on my own account was that when I started getting more saves on my pins, it really created this ripple effect throughout my entire account where not only was I getting more saves, but I also was getting more traffic. So like I mentioned, when your content gets saved more and more, you're probably going to get more followers. Your other pins are gonna start performing well. And then because not every pin is gonna be an infographic, your other pins are gonna get traction, and then you ultimately will get more outbound traffic as well. So that traffic that's actually going to your website. However, in the beginning, especially if you're having trouble getting traction with your pins, I think creating that infographic where you have all this crazy, amazing, valuable content and somebody sees it right away and knows that they want to save that can be really valuable. Now, do I recommend having every pin be an infographic where you're giving them everything they need to know right there on that pin design? Absolutely not. But I think it could be worth testing, and if it performs well for you, that maybe you create X amount of infographic pins a week or a month, because you know that it can help create that ripple effect that is going to really boost your overall count. And like I mentioned, can build your following and still help you get those outbound clicks. And I really feel strongly about creating that content that gets saved, even if it's not driving traffic right away, because that's what I saw with my account. Remember when I said that I grew 378% over the past year? That 378% was not my followers. It was not necessarily the saves. That was actually my outbound traffic. So my traffic from Pinterest going to my website, that was all attributed to Pinterest. That grew 378%. And sometimes from when I would look at my Pinterest analytics from week to week or month to month, sometimes I would feel like, oh, these pins are just getting saves. But then when I was able to really look at that big picture, I realized, oh my gosh, I wasn't just getting saves. I was getting so much more traffic as well from Pinterest. And one thing that was challenging when I was looking at those stats in the moment was that a lot of those pins were idea pins. And I knew that those pins were getting a lot of impressions. They were getting me a lot of followers. They were getting me a lot of saves. I was like, they don't drive traffic though. But like I said, I'm gonna keep going back to this. It created that ripple effect, and those saves and that traction just for my account overall, it was telling Pinterest that I was a creator who was sharing great value, and they should really push the distribution of all of my pins. And that's truly what I experienced. And so even though week to week or month to month, I just might have noticed a lot of saves from those idea pins. And in case you didn't know, idea pins used to not be linkable. And then Pinterest created or made this update in May of 2023 where essentially we moved from individual pin formats to all pins. Now I can create a pin that all of my pins can be linkable. So going back to that history though, that those idea pins, they were getting me great traction. And so it's kind of nice now that I won't have that pain point anymore where I'm creating some pins and I just know that they're gonna get saves but not traffic. But it's just important to keep in mind that some will get saves, some will just get outbound traffic, or some will get both. But it's important to keep thinking about that savable content, and that it really is important. So let's go ahead and keep moving here. Let's go on to tip number 5 for getting more saves on your content. This is true for Instagram. This is true for TikTok. Create a strong hook. So what can you put on the text overlay, or maybe the first thing you're saying in a video that is going to hook your audience in, that makes them want to stop their scroll and keep listening? Or maybe if it's a static image, what's going to hook them in and make them feel like I either need to save this for later or I have to go to their website to learn more. So that really strong hook can also get your content, like I said, to really capture people and get them to want to save that for later. And as we wrap up this video here, I am going to give you really a bonus tip. This is something that I feel like should be a no-brainer, but it's easy to get overlooked. Just create really high quality, valuable content. Try to be very conscious of not just going through the motions and, pushing out pins or repinning, but always trying to lean into what's working, test out different things, lean into new features, and really get kind of playful with your Pinterest strategy and how you can serve your audience. Really, the best way to get saves on your content is to just serve valuable content. And that can be done through how-tos, tutorials, really fun ideas, just understanding your audience and what they want. So people are coming to Pinterest with a problem, or they need ideas, and they are actively looking for a solution. And you have the perfect solution to their problem. So then it's just all about the way that you are approaching that and really sharing that content. And when it is valuable, I truly believe that if you are being consistent, you are going to see those saves, those outbound clicks, your followers, all of that grow on Pinterest. Now, I just mentioned consistency, and that will be key. In the beginning, I have to be honest, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's hard to see growth on Pinterest because it's a search engine. It takes time. However, when you are consistent and you're following best practices, you're following these tips, I absolutely know it's not if you'll see growth, it's when. It will start paying off, I promise. I've experienced it firsthand for my own account, and I've seen it time and time again for my clients. So I hope these tips were helpful for you when thinking about creating that savable content on Pinterest. And maybe you've never even thought about the fact that, oh, saves are actually a really important Pinterest metric. Or maybe you knew that it was important, but you didn't know how to get people to save those pins. So I hope these 5 tips and that bonus tip really get you inspired to go and start creating on your account. And like I mentioned, get a little playful with your pins and really catching your audience's attention. What I would love to invite you to do, because this is going to help me so much, and if you found this video valuable, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and let me know in the comments what other questions you have about Pinterest, because I love serving people and I just want to create content that's gonna help you grow on my favorite platform, and also the platform that I think is the best way to get free and organic traffic to your site, which is Pinterest. So like I said, go ahead, subscribe, like this video, and let me know in the comments how I can serve you. If you wanna learn more, I do have a shop where I have lots of different workshops, from SEO to repurposing content, but I also have a free training that I would love to invite you to take. So all of that is linked in the description of this video. And once you subscribe, then you will get to see me in next week's new episode. Can't wait to see you then. Bye for now.